You can't put these things on like they're a wool hat. You can't do that. It looks stupid. You have to force it right down over the front. If you're not actively trying to trap your own eyebrow hairs, you're doing it wrong. Evil West has been out for just over a year and has now been released as a freebie on PlayStation Plus. That kind of thing always makes me nervous. Releasing a game that got rave reviews for free. I always think corporate is up to something.
Yeah. Harrow's not gonna be happy about the bridge.
Ugh. Harrow can suck my dick. He's the Secretary of War, not the Secretary of Bridges. Let's go have a look-see.
Wow, cool main menu. Actually, come to think of it, most AAA titles don't make their menus look this good. Oh goody! Arachnophobia mode. Quite a few games I've been playing recently have had this. You know, you could just not put spiders in video games, it's just a thought. And immediately it feels like Uncharted. This isn't what I was expecting. It's not a bad thing, it's just not what I was expecting. And punch him! Ooh. Okay, that was pretty satisfying, but I do have a question. This guy has 2 gun belts. Where's his gun? Oh, you know what? Screw the gun. Beat him to a pulp on the floor! Yes! Uppercut! Cannonball punch! Okay, getting a bit hectic now. But at least my partner has a gun, I suppose. I'm gonna get one at some point, right? Right? Yes, I have a revolver.
Now that's what I call a game changer. Welcome to America, dipshit!
And I know what happens now, because it always happens in these kind of games. Melee combat is going to take a backseat, isn't it? Not even slightly. Melee continues to be a big part of combat, mostly because of the Zapper. It's an electrical gauntlet that can, let's say, manipulate enemies, pull enemies to you, pull yourself to the enemies, pummel them into puree. Beat him! Beat him! Beat him! Beat him! This never gets old. Beat him! Over the course of the entire game, you are constantly drip-fed new weapons, equipment, and upgrades. And since the game is only about 12 hours, you'll feel like you're getting a new piece of kit every few minutes. The revolver. The rifle shoots out enemy weak points. The shotgun obliterates anything at close range. The crippling rod does exactly what it says on the side. The Scorcher. Why they didn't just call it a flamethrower is anyone's guess. The crossbow. Less damage than the rifle, but shoots more often. Explosives. Do I really need to explain what these are? And the grand finale, the Gatling gun. Yes! You'll say that a lot in this game. Yes! The thing is that every single gun in this whole game has infinite ammo. I shit you not. Instead, every single gun runs off of a cooldown timer. The revolver and rifle cool down very quickly and will obviously be your mainstays, as will the crossbow if you prefer it to the rifle. The shotgun and crippling rod will be your secondaries. The remaining weapons, flamethrower, explosives, Gatling gun, they have massive cooldowns. That's because they tend to level the battlefield when used. But get this, the cooldown timer for the more powerful weapons do not cool down outside of a fight. Which means you can't walk up to a group of enemies and go, wait 5 minutes, and then go across to the next group of bad guys and go, because they don't cool down outside of a fight. So you can't spam your most powerful attacks. Someone's thought this shit through. The flamethrower and the explosives sometimes have to be used outside of combat. Now these particular weapons can be used whenever you like, but only outside of a fight, because they have to clear obstacles. And then there are the enemies. Holy shit. The regular foot soldiers are nothing unexpected. Melee, ranged, suicide bombers, because of course. But then there are the big bastards. My first encounter with one of these was with the so-called Highborn. Came at the end of level 1 as the end of level boss. It was tough enough to be a boss, and certainly your first encounter with any of these foes are definitely boss-like. But they're not bosses. You will run into them time and time and time again. Subsequent encounters will be weaker. Probably because other enemies are thrown into the mix and they're trying not to overwhelm you too much. Each large enemy is distinct and has a particular gimmick or two it employs. The highborn slam attacks, the shielded guy charges at you, the spider-inspired one webs you up, the fat one summons reinforcements. Each one has a distinct pattern of attacks you will learn to adapt to, especially considering that they get easier after the first fight. You shouldn't have too much trouble with them further on. And then the game starts throwing 2 of them at you at a time. And then 3. As I said, each one has a particular thing it does, so when more than one comes at you, it becomes tricky juggling them. It's almost like a puzzle, trying to figure out how to deal with the new combination you've been handed. And it is rare the game will repeat a combination. So despite the fact that you face the same individual enemies again and again, you'll likely not face the same situation again. In a weird kind of way, it helps keep things feeling fresh. None of that is to say that it's easy, because it's not. I dropped dead a fair few times before the credits rolled, but not to worry. Fuck me, that was quick. Every time you level up, you'll earn a new perk point, which you can use to unlock new punching and zapper-related skills. Oh yes. You'll find cash scattered all over the place. Spend cash in the menus to upgrade your weapons and gear. Levels do have some back and forth with different passages, and sometimes it's difficult to tell exactly which way is actually forwards, but veer off the main path and you'll quickly run into a dead end, which, by the way, always contains a pickup. Even when you go the wrong way, you're still rewarded. There's only one section of one level which is actually maze-like, and even then they thought to include waypoint markers to guide you. This is not a game you're supposed to get lost in.
Dick could gag a maggot.
Aiming is a bit brisk, to say the least. What I mean by that is, you can rotate the camera at a fair pace, or not at all. Moving the camera very slowly is impossible, unless you change the maximum rotate speed in the menus, but that's not exactly a sensible move in an action game. It doesn't ruin your game though, and you will adapt to it. It's just a little bit weird. And there will be times when you will stop to admire the view. Because despite the fact that the game looks like it was made on a budget, it hasn't stopped them from making it look better than most modern AAA titles. Fire up any Red Dead game and you'll see your typical Wild West environments, possible mountains, usually desert, the same beige kind of colours everywhere. Fire up Evil West and you'll get a huge variety, a veritable smorgasbord, and often a full-blown riot of colour on screen. I think someone's trying to win an artistic design award. The game's a bit brisk as well. I was at times, just occasionally, left with the feeling that the game was trying to get to the end before I did. As I said, the game's only 12 hours long, fights only occur in arenas, and there's the occasional pickup. Other than that, there are no distractions. Well, apart from the view, obviously. Pushing ahead is the only way to keep the game going, so naturally, you push on ahead. Hence the speedy pacing.
How come they're not running away? It's almost done!
Okay, it's not all speedy. The developers felt the need to occasionally break up the combat with the odd puzzle. Although quite why they felt the need to interrupt the combat when it's this fucking awesome is beyond me. The puzzles are straightforward, usually of the find key and bring it back variety. There's the occasional block pushing puzzle as well, though thankfully these are mercifully rare. I mean, I'm all for puzzles, but they can slow things down a bit too much in an action game sometimes. Some areas are dark, but there's nothing hidden in it waiting to jump out on you. It's actually very hard to get lost in this game because even items glow very brightly. Not that there are many items there, but anything you need to see is highlighted. Speaking of which, initially I wasn't sure what this was. Now weirdly, the game never bothers to tell you. It just kind of leaves you to it. But in the absence of anywhere else to go, eventually I worked out that these glowing chains mark climbable points in the world. And because they glow, they serve as handy guides as well, if you do happen to get lost. Not only to the level's end, but also potentially to hidden side passages and items they contain. Most fights are in large open areas. I say most. Later fights sometimes occur in tighter confines, but it's rare and it never impairs your ability to defend yourself. Well, okay, not never. There was one exception I found. I discovered a collision box that extends quite widely around one corner of a tower. And because the tower juts out into the arena, in my rush to avoid being crushed, I kept getting caught on it. That was annoying. But this issue never happened anywhere else. At all. You know, for a third-person shooter/fighter, it's remarkable how often you fail to get stuck in this. I want a sequel! The levels are gorgeous to look at. Well, most of them. There are some misty, washed out ones, but it's never long before you're dropped into a raging torrent of colour once again. The puzzles can slow things down, but it never lasts. Before long, you're back into the frantic action once more. The enemies are sizable, the weapons powerful, and the melee combat, so satisfying. And there are elements of wider world building, hinting that while this story is over, there could easily be more to come from this universe. I'm having the same problem I had with my witch's hat. The brim keeps bouncing off the back of my chair. Except this hat refuses to concede defeat. I'm going nowhere. I could probably just rest my head here, actually. Mind you, it might not be doing the brim any good. I better stop doing that. What did you think of my video? Leave a like or dislike down below. What did you think of Evil West? Or haven't you played it yet? And if not, why not? You've got no excuse. It's a freebie on PlayStation Plus, for Christ's sake. The price has probably come down a little bit since then as well. Yeah, it's got to. And for any of you who can't get enough of my dulcet tones, you can always subscribe, ring the bell for notification, that's a separate thing. Or if you want to inflict my irritating persona on someone else, you can always share instead. See you next time.